Joining us today is Penny Light, a successful visionary and entrepreneur.
The women are usually in some kind of transition in their lives, or they're just looking out on their lives and it's not reflecting back on them what they recognize, and they're just looking for a change. So this is that kick. It's that out of the comfort zone.
Discover how stepping out of our comfort zone raises our tolerance for uncertainty, how travel can spark transformation, and the importance of leaning on mindfulness as we navigate the unknown. Let's dive in. Penny, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's so wonderful having you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Well, I have to tell people, we are not affiliated in business.
And I've been asked to.
But what I love is that women entrepreneurs are just so open to supporting one another. And so you've been so gracious as I reached out to you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Well, we have a lot to get to. You're the founder of Grit and Grace Clothing and Grit and Grace Adventures and now Grit and Grace Yoga. And next one for you. I wanted to just lay the backdrop here. So before the pandemic, you ran a successful travel company out of Costa Rica. You had to make a difficult decision and move back to Canada.
Yes.
Start us with the catalyst of what inspired you to begin your journey with Grit and Grace Clothing.
Well, it was in coming back to Toronto and going shopping. I lived in Costa Rica for 6 years, so I had flip-flops and sundresses, and I needed some Canadian appropriate clothing. And when I went to Costa Rica, I'd left corporate, so whatever I came back to was just suits, which I wasn't wearing anymore. So I went shopping, and the experience I had for I'm now 49, I was a few years younger then, didn't suit what I thought women my age were looking for, who were youthful and playful. So I went to some of the old go-tos that I used to go to, and the product wasn't there, and the experience wasn't there, and the service wasn't there. So it really was an itch to scratch. So I basically wanted to create my own closet, but I wanted the experience to be something different and something special for all women, but particularly women our age.
And can you just talk about the vision of this immersive experience as you saw it in retail and what was missing and what you introduced?
Yeah, I think feeling comfortable and, if I might use the word, safe in the space while we're trying on clothes. I think we're bombarded so much as women through the media, through social media, but this idea of how we're supposed to look and how we're supposed to be. And, the shopping experience in a lot of the large chains is, these big open change rooms that are open to the entire store, and there's no mirrors in the change room. So you have to come out, and, that whole kind of, it felt cold and it felt very salesy.
Yeah.
So I wanted to create something, there's nothing more fun than getting ready with your girlfriends when you were younger, you know, you all get ready together in the bedroom, the clothes get strewn everywhere. So creating that kind of living room space. So all the change rooms have a couch, all the change rooms are big enough to spin in. So you can have you don't have to come out, but you have lots of room to try things on, and mirrors in the change room. So you can stay in or you can come out. But it's created so that you feel comfortable coming out, like the whole store isn't staring at you kind of thing.
What surprised you about what you had to learn and kind of overcome through that leap? Because that's a radically different industry.
Well, it is, but it's, so many skill sets are transferable. And still to this day, every day I'm Googling, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I fix that? So it's really just, that's the grit. Yeah. That's the you just got to figure it out. And I had to figure something out when I came back to Canada, and I wanted a better experience. So thankfully, my partner actually is in retail. He's 30 years in the secondhand clothing business. So still a little quite different. He had a lot to learn to help me as well.
When you developed this name, what was the value set that you thought about?
That we're all made of stories of grit and grace. And when we share them, we discover that. And, how do we get through anything in life? It's with grit and hopefully a little bit of grace. Sometimes not always, but as much as we can.
When it comes to confidence and watching kind of women walk into the store, have that experience, what have you learned about women and their bodies and confidence just through that immersive experience?
It's interesting because you do sadly see how women are so influenced by what the media is telling us we're supposed to be or look like. And I think sadly more so this filtered world we live in. I worry about our young girls. Yeah. So they do come in and have this idea of what they're supposed to look like in the clothes that they put on, or even how they're supposed to fit and sizing. And, it's interesting when you explain to women, there was a time in fashion where everything was fit to you. There wasn't sizing. There was always a seamstress. And we offer tailoring for that purpose,
Yeah.
right? But we've moved to this world where they're trying to like put all women into one size. And that's not a realistic thing to do. So, you know, they come in the store, and it's interesting to observe that and kind of teach them a different way of looking at it. And once they kind of have that aha moment, they're like, oh, and then they're more willing to try on things they might not usually wear, and sort of just stepping out of their comfort zones a little bit.
Yeah.
It's fun. And then they get excited when they come in the change room, like super happy and excited, and like, I never thought I could wear this. It's so rewarding.
Well, that kind of segues me perfectly to this topic that I really wanted to dig in with you on, which is venturing into the unknown and stepping outside of our comfort zone raises our tolerance for uncertainty. And I grabbed that from your website. As soon as I read that, I was like, oh, this is amazing. I'm imagining this is woven through several of your businesses. Everything. Can you just go into that lesson for all of us a little bit and what your experience has been with it?
We're in a comfort crisis. There's a great new book out. I don't know if you've read it, called Comfort Crisis, actually. And he delves really deep into it, but we're not actually designed to live this perfect. Our rooms are the perfect temperature. Our roads are perfectly smooth for the most part. We're never uncomfortable. We're not actually designed to be that way. And what happens is we get into this like mindset of repeat. We're kind of on this hamster wheel, and 95%, actually, this is a stat, of our life is spent on repeat, which is shocking. That means only 5% of our time is spent in a conscious state. So I am a huge believer that we have to kick ourselves out of that repetitive, because it inspires creativity. It inspires mindfulness, for example, you know, to be more in the moment. So when we step out of our comfort zones, whether we're going on a trip or just taking a different route somewhere and noticing something different, or putting on an outfit you might not normally wear, that inspires us. You know, you sort of sit up a little bit taller and you get to express yourself a little bit more, and you're more mindful and more in the moment.
Was that the catalyst for the travel, like the Grit and Grace adventure experience? Like, when did you start that?
So I had Live Life Flight Adventures.
Okay.
So I've been doing this for the travel for 10 years.
Okay.
So the rebrand, the relaunch it just made sense. I had this amazing database of incredible women through Grit and Grace Clothing.
Yeah.
So it made sense to rebrand it under that name and bring it back to life. And it's my true passion. I mean, I love the stores and I love what it's providing to women and the connections that are being made. But I think the real experience of getting out of your comfort zone and traveling and seeing the world and connecting people in those moments is so powerful and more my passion. So it was actually more, I was looking out at my life and what was reflecting back on me, I wasn't recognizing myself in. So it was my whole, the change from living in Costa Rica to coming back to Canada was more than just the move. I did it not knowing it was permanent. We all thought the pandemic would last a week or 2 or 3 months, but 3 years. So it wasn't on my own terms. So I left my house full of everything. And when you live as an expat, you create a family. So, I had a great network of female friends, and I had my work and all of that. And then I stepped into instant new business, instant parenting. So my partner has 2 young kids and I don't have children of my own. So that was a lot. All you moms out there are killing it.
Yeah.
And instant cohabitation. I lived alone and loved it. So, I was living a life that was very much me, and then had to step into all these other roles that I was figuring out, partnering, figuring out step parenting, figuring out business, I was just figuring things out for so long that I guess it was a breakdown. And so my therapist said to me, well, when was the last time you looked out at your life and recognized yourself? And I said, when I was sharing my love of travel. She's like, okay, so do that.
So do that.
So Grit and Grace Adventures was born in January, I want to say now.
And what happens? Like, how many women join? Like, give us a little peek into this. What is this experience?
I cap it out at 10 women just because I like to keep it as super intimate as possible.
Yeah.
I don't like to call them yoga retreats. We move our bodies every day. They really are more adventure retreats, and kind of the overland experience. So we don't go to one place and stay in one place. So Morocco, for example, is we caravan through the country in luxury SUVs and do 2 nights. So like, the women are usually our age.
Yeah.
they're in some kind of transition in their lives, whether it's like nearing retirement or just entering retirement, divorce, soon to be empty nesters, or they're just looking out on their lives and it's not what they reflecting back on them, what they recognize, and they're just looking for a change. So this is that kick. It's that out of the comfort zone moment that helps people, I think, then reflect and go home a changed person in some shape or form.
And is this because like we're just in travel, we're transported into everything that does not look familiar?
None of it looks
familiar. So you're kind of forced into that state of mindfulness day after day after day.
Yeah, when you're traveling, everything's unknown, and usually something will go wrong. A flight will get delayed, or we rolled into the Sahara Desert. We were short one tent because the camp had accidentally rented it out to an Airbnb thing, and so that was me that had to like go to spend the night in another tent, but you have to very quickly adjust. So people are just like, you're forced into the moment, you're forced into a mindfulness, and you're forced to pay attention to what's around you. Whereas here, when you're on that repeat, you miss so much.
Do you find when people return, are they able to hold that skill?
It's tricky. I do get a lot of calls. Sometimes it's immediate reflection. Sometimes it's a year down the road. Someone will message me from a retreat and they'll be like, "Hey, Penny, it's just hitting me now. What shook me up then, what needed to come out." So sometimes it takes a little while for it to like percolate. Yeah. And, they'll come home and they'll look at their lives around them and make minor changes or slight changes, sometimes big changes.
Well, and I think in your website, the thing that I loved, it says exploring our hidden capabilities within us. Yeah. Now, I love that idea for our everyday living. Obviously, it's heightened during travel. Can you share a little bit about maybe some of the stories that you've encountered for yourself where that door has opened for you and you didn't even realize you had that capability?
I'll use my experience in Africa. It wasn't a trip. I did go live there. I was living in Botswana in the middle of the bush, documenting a pride of lions with a film crew for a year. And every time I say that, it seems ridiculous, but it's true. It was such an incredible opportunity. But I came from a strong corporate world. So I was working for some Fortune 500 companies where what you wore, the purse you carried, the shoes, where you ate, like a lot mattered that didn't really matter, but mattered. And I was 34 years old. I was young. To this world with no electricity, no running water, no mirrors. Literally the only mirror was on the side of the vehicle, which I would catch a glimpse of. There was no room for vanity. And I came from a world where I believed beauty was external. And this experience taught me that beauty was from within. So it changed me literally on a cellular level, that what was inside of me was way more beautiful than anything on the outside. It didn't matter what suit, shoes, or purse I was carrying, or car I was driving, or restaurant I was eating at, and with whom.
It's so freeing. Was that your experience? So freeing when you get there.
Yeah, it's incredibly freeing. There was no phones.
Yeah.
I wasn't attached to this external appendage we now have of our cell phones, which was really nice. And then watching the animal kingdom, and not being the top of the food chain for the first time. We walk around pretty safe here, where, so I had to listen very intently for warning signals. I had to look near and far constantly. My hearing and my eyesight both improved just from being in nature and having to be aware and alert at all times, which was pretty magical. Being silent. When are we ever quiet enough to hear our own thoughts, which is scary for some people, and then can also be pretty magical because you can let the shit go that you realize. If you stop to hear yourself, you realize how much damage some of those thoughts might be doing, or how unimportant they actually are. So you start to let it go and you allow in what matters.
What practices do you do every day to kind of keep this potency alive?
It's so hard.
But that's good that we say that. That's good that we say that.
So hard. And as an entrepreneur, I'm too busy to do this. I'm too busy to do that. And when I do step away from everything, be it a walk in the woods, yoga, solo yoga, meditation in the morning, journaling. It blows my mind. And it shouldn't surprise me, but it always does remind me that, wow, I have a whole other set of creativity going on that I can't access because I keep saying I'm too busy, or I keep on this grind, but when you step away from all of that, it's natural. It just comes naturally.
There was a line on your website as I was doing my research for this show, and it just screamed at me, yearning for more than the ordinary.
Yeah.
You put that right on your website. Why is that such a value for you, and where do you see people stopping?
It's fear-based. It's a sense of worthiness. I so come from that. I have no problem sharing a very personal story. I don't come from a traveling family at all. I didn't get on a plane until I was 18, and then I didn't really travel until I was 21. My first trip was to Italy. Not a lot of money growing up, and abusive. I'm actually estranged from my birth mother, so self-worth is something I've struggled with my entire life. I think like one of my earliest memories was wanting more. That I knew, not that I wasn't happy with what I had, but I knew that there was potential out there. Fortunately, I had a great set of friends at a young age. So, who came from good homes and their parents were great influences. I spent a lot of time in those homes. So I was seeing this and one family was British. They had accents. It was this foreign, otherness, if you will. And I wanted the otherness in my life. So I always desired something more, maybe to my detriment, to be honest. It's, what's around that corner, what's over that hill, but it's fed and the desire to see more of the world. It's fed the desire to do more. And I don't want to say I don't have a fear of failure. I do. I think, even with my stores, it's not a great time right now in retail. It's actually really difficult for small business. And I think to myself, well, if this doesn't work, what will people think? Yeah. But then I have to remind myself that I tried. Yeah. The alternative would have been still working in corporate, having small talk around a cooler, not sitting here with you, having this beautiful, meaningful conversation. And if it doesn't work, I tried. Yeah. And I'd rather that than not.
I just got chills when you said that, Penny, because I know there's a lot of women entrepreneurs that listen to the show. That's the narrative we all have. Yeah. I hear that in my head too. Yeah. But yeah, I tried. At least I tried.
I like to ask myself, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
And when you really reflect on that question, you realize that this is what I'd want to be doing.
Do you see a shift happening? I just want to go back to this theme of yearning for more than the ordinary. Because when I read it too, it's it's not more. It's not more stuff. No. It's not more things. It's not the next level. What's this life that I can lead that's somewhat unconventional, that gives me permission to do things a little differently? Yeah. Do you think that we are on the cusp of a revolution here?
I think we're on the cusp of a revolution. Yeah. I honestly, fun fact, somebody just told me this, and I don't know I can't quote where it came from, that young women are following us now. So our followers are actually young girls. They're tired of the filtered world. They're tired of the whatever it is they're seeing on their Instagrams. They want to follow women our age who are doing things like this. That's the cool factor. That's the inspiration. And there's a lot of us right now. And we're a very unspoken to demographic who are finding our voices. Look out. Yeah. And we're speaking up, and we want to be heard, and we also want to be spoken to. From a marketing perspective too, they're missing this demographic. You're hearing all this stuff about perimenopause and menopause, and we're not our mother's 49-year-old. When I look at a picture of my mom when she was 49, we are very different looking. We're more youthful, we're more active, we're taking better care of ourselves, we're healthier, and we want more than the ordinary. Yeah. I think it's amazing that these young girls are looking to this now and not that.
Well, Penny, if people want to come for a Grit and Grace retail clothing experience, can you just share where your stores are located so people know?
So we have a seasonal store. The first store was Sauble Beach. That opens actually this weekend. Long weekend, closes Thanksgiving. So it's a summer store, fast and furious. Guelph was the second store. That's at 24 Wilson Street in Guelph, downtown. And then 170 Ossington Street in Toronto. That's the newest.
And great immersive experiences for people to gain new perspectives, push their comfort zone, try on clothes, and feel the confidence.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, amazing.
It's been a joy.
Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn, where we transform the wisdom from our podcast into practical tips, tools, and takeaways for your leadership journey. Find us at grit.grace.podcast. See you next week.